Good evening. Welcome to the Oz and Minis podcast, episode 2. I am your host, Oz, and today we will be talking about moderating in moderation. But first, word from our sponsor. We are currently sponsored today by FCS Property Limited. For all your property needs, contact FCS Property on www.fcspropertyltd.co.uk. And now we shall start the podcast. I am, as said, your host, Oz, and here is the smallest woman on the internet.
Oh, thank you. I really like that introduction. It's me,
Have a good
Minnie.
And today we are
But we
joined.
have guests.
Yeah, we have two guests today. Returning guests from last week's. We have Fenris.
Hi, how's it going?
Existing. We are existing. And the final host. And the final guest we have is Finn.
Well, hey!
You're a
Hey,
bit too excited,
Finny.
but sure!
He has every right to be.
And today,
Yes,
yes.
better to be excited than to be boring.
Well, we are never boring, especially when I'm
Welcome to
around
my life.
and when Minnie's around.
Oh.
Especially when it comes to group videos.
Oh yeah, and
That's not good.
aborted starts of podcasts. Anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, I am your
Let's
starting.
get into this.
Host?
So,
Team Star.
And today we are talking about moderation as stated. So, guys and girl, how
thank you.
how do we start? Yes, we will start by stating, how did you start with moderation? What was your first moderation gig? We'll start with Minnie.
Finn, then. Oh, fine.
We'll start with you.
Well, so I started when I was hired. Oh, fun. By Oz. I kind of made him hire me. Not gonna lie.
You were
In
begging
May
for it.
last year, like 2018 May. I wasn't begging. I was like, "You're a poor, lonely little soul." Because at the time, it was you and Mortimer, and Mortimer was on hiatus. So I was like, "I'll help you," and you were so desperate, you said yes. So that's
We
kind of
needed
how
the
I
help.
got into it. And so I've been staff for a very long time, and I feel very old. Thank you.
I know you
Who
do.
next? Finn?
Well, if I'm wanting to go back in history, technically, I had another moderation, well, I say moderation, admin sort of thing before this,
Yeah.
which was to do with music. I was on this music camp thing, and I was one of the few people that had to look after a lot of the people over there. But yeah, like I first became a mod once Oz put out some applications, as he desperately needed some more mods for the servers at the time.
Yes, we did.
And I was one of the fortunate people that's managed to win his heart over becoming a mod.
Win the heart.
Through my devious plan. And yeah, I became a mod. I like to think that I think I was alright. Especially for the first 2 months, I was very active. Not so much now, but I'm still here trying.
You're still here.
I'm still here. If there's something going on, I will try and sort it.
Exactly.
And that's
This is not a full-time job.
yes, unlike
Yes.
how I
Not
make
As
how we
we
take
have
this.
lives.
Yeah. We'll come on to that.
Also, yes, I interviewed you. I interviewed Finn, and I
Yes.
did actually do a proper job process for it. Doing interviews on trains are fun. And finally, Fenris, how
Hi.
did you
Yeah,
get into?
Yeah. No, the only real moderation thing I've done was for the UK's first chat, Discord, Telegram, and Amino.
network.
Not so much
Yeah.
Amino, but Telegram. I mainly did the Telegram. That was what I used the most. Yeah, that was only about 6 months ago or so.
Wow,
Probably
time flies.
probably a little bit longer. When you guys asked me to help out, so I went from. Well, I knew Oswick. I'd met him before, and Finn. I'd met him before, and he just asked me to help out, so I did.
Didn't know me though.
Not
I knew of you, but I didn't actually meet you until
Chelfers.
yeah, the little bit a couple of months ago. So yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Time flies.
And,
Can I say
hello.
that?
Hello to Shadow Storm Chloe. My fiance is dropped on the podcast. I like
Hi,
Sally,
Shadow
sorry,
Storm.
Sally's comment between Minnie begging for it and Oswin being desperate. This is the best start.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, it's me.
Yeah, you. How did you get into it?
Okay, my first moderation job was in fact not the quote-unquote UK first stuff that I had to deal with, but I had my own personal server which I created in order to merge multiple multiple friend groups together, and it worked. Of course, at the time it was a small server I had to deal with, which led to bigger things, and ending up trying to deal with 200 people. But
Just a
my
casual daily job.
most of my situations and how I got into moderating jobs are fairly accidental, to be honest. For the quote unquote current thing I have to do with you lot as my as part of my team, I got thrust into it by having the Amino chat given to me because they didn't want it anymore, and due to various situations, and I was the only one that was awake at 1 a.m. at the time, and I took over. It's basically how it happened, and I I'm more I wasn't necessarily picked or something like that. I had to learn on the job, and learning on the job is something that you know has to happen for some people.
Takes skill.
It takes skill. It takes time. It takes a lot of mishaps. It takes a lot of mistakes to go around. But honestly, it's would my situation be any different if I never took those jobs? Yes. And it's a case of try and fail, try and succeed, and clearly it's try and succeed in this sense, which has led to this podcast in the first place. Yay!
Yeah.
And
Yay.
it means that moderation does has its pros and its cons. I mean, the main pro for moderation is it allows you to it gives you skills, skills to
Yeah,
handle people handling skills, great handling skills, which does correspond when you go back to management or managing people, managing personalities, especially personalities, because in fandoms there are huge personalities in chats.
We had a whole conversation about that last week.
I know.
Yeah.
And huge personalities, and it can be rewarding because it does improve your personal development, and I mean there are also downsides, but we'll go to that later. I mean, for you guys, what has since you guys have started, what has been the most positive improvement or skill that you've learnt from it?
Shall I start?
Yes, we'll go with Finn first.
Yeah, go. Take
Okay.
away.
Well, I would say it's definitely made me a lot more confident with like talking to people. Like, I'm not an aggressive person, but like I now know when I need to be. Although I'm still not very aggressive.
Yeah.
Another thing is time management, actually, because when I first started, at least the first 2 to 3 months of uh, being on Amino, that was literally the only thing I did, and I sacrificed a lot of my life to do it. And then I was thinking, okay, shit, I actually need to do something with my life. Um, so I learned how to balance things a bit more, even though I'm now focusing more on my life because that's my priority. But it has managed to. I feel like I'm dragging this a bit, but
No, keep going. This is
I
great.
just
I'm finding it very interesting.
I just find my time management to be a lot better. My confidence has got up. It's allowed me to become more sociable, and I now know how to act in certain situations. So, in all that, it has helped me.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
good. Fenris?
Yeah, you do definitely learn how to react to certain people in certain situations. You kind of start becoming tolerant of certain people. Like some people are just the way they are, and
Yeah, no,
you do learn
learn to love
to
them.
get used. Well, yeah, and again with the time management, because when I first started doing the moderations, it was all I was doing day and night, watching over the chat, trying to catch people out, if you know what I mean.
Trying yeah.
Like trying to resolve situations, so I'm proving that I'm a decent moderator.
I
But
definitely find that with people. Like when
yeah,
having had many people go through being a moderator, you all start off really like worried that you're gonna do something wrong, but you also gotta please
yeah,
them.
yeah,
And really, we're not like that. Like, I'm really happy if you guys just chill. It's nice knowing that we have support and
yeah.
backup.
Well,
But you
I've
guys are great. We really appreciate it.
yeah. I mean, I've recently backed away a little bit. I still kind of watch over, and I might say hi or whatever. But I tend to be quite busy recently, uh, in real life.
And that's all right. We're managing.
Well, yeah, but it's not a full-time job moderating.
No,
We do
it's
it when we
not.
can.
Literally, that's exactly what it is. What about you, Oz? Got anything?
I
Any?
mean, I already stated
Yeah.
some of the positives, but also, yeah, going back to what you guys have all said, it's, time management is key. It's a lot harder when you are the sole leader, when you are the figurehead, when you are the person who, essentially, when you are the figurehead, when you own the chat, it's the job of moderation is slightly different. Not necessarily completely different because you have to handle the server as well. Yes, you've got
It's a
your
lot more pressure.
and also you have to moderate. When you're on your own, you moderating yourself. And sometimes, obviously, it can be perceived as power, grabbing power and stuff like that because you are you are the main guy, you are the head, and you know because you are acting how you feel is the best interests of the of whatever you're moderating, whether it be a chat, whether it be a server, whether it be something else like something else like that. It is or even just management. When you are on your own, it puts a lot more pressure on you to perform, and it puts a lot more scrutiny on you. And it's I prefer it when it's a team and stuff like that, but a medium-sized team, because when you have too large of a team, it can lead to conflict intra-team, but
Yeah.
too small of a team can lead to when something goes off, then all hell breaks loose.
Yes.
So it's
That's so true.
but when you're moderating in terms of with a group, it's a lot of pressure is a lot less pressure is put on you, but a lot more um support. You get support from your fellow staff members. You get support from, you know, being a collective in the first place. It works the same in management, where, you know, if you have a defined hierarchy of several people, or sometimes a team of management, there are times where working with that means that you'll get a better result as you have consultation from multiple staff members in this case. And yeah, Minnie, what about you?
Me.
What's your positives, and how do you feel about your experience?
Well, honestly, it's like helped. I mean, it's weird, but it's like helped me be a bit more confident as a person and actually like have faith in my decisions, because I know we all sound bad to all the people listening, whom I don't know how many there are. So there could be like 3 people listening, but
9.
we might seem like a whole bunch of like big scary people with a lot of power, but really, I just feel like like you guys. So it's been quite a learning curve to just be able to balance me being serious and me also just having a being weird and crazy and mini moys. Because essentially, I know Oz is seen as like the most like stricter, overseeing guy, and then there's just Minnie who like makes mistakes and doesn't always follow the rules and shouldn't really be hired, but I'm here anyway.
Not following the rules. You're admitting this to people on a podcast.
What was the first word I said in this podcast, Oz?
Yes, but still.
There you go.
Still, you kinda.
I do. I follow the. Okay. I'm good now.
You're supposed to be following the rules.
I have learned from my mistakes. I do follow the rules. Okay.
You follow the rules.
I follow my own rules.
No, you follow the rules of the server.
Yes, I do.
You do realise you are basically undermining this whole situation.
I will get myself kicked out of the staff group chat before you know it.
Yeah, 5 minutes later, you're gone. Yeah.
Probably.
But talking of
anyway,
talking
no,
of 5 minutes.
Keep going. Please.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No. Because
I was
5 minutes.
Say it's helped.
No, it's not helped you.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's literally helped my entire career path with what I want to do in the future. But if you don't want to hear about that, it's fine.
I've already talked about management.
Yeah, but you're not going into management.
You don't know.
Okay, fine.
I've actually taken courses on management.
Awesome.
I have qualifications.
The sponsor what?
The sponsor, FCS Property Limited, is looking for a manager.
I'll do it. Am I hired? Do I need a...
Yes, you're hired.
We are mid podcast, remember?
God.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. To one of the things that I actually just stated earlier in the example is trying to make swift, lasting decisions. It's very easy to look dictatorish when you are a sole head, when you are the only staff member in a group chat, in a as a moderator, but as a team, it's a lot. If you're going to consult, it means that you do sometimes lose the effectiveness of having quick, full-on, quick decisions. So, talking to you guys, I will start with Fenris, because Minnie and Finn.
Oh my gosh, it's really
starting with Fenris,
Hi.
what do you how do you deal with rapidly dealing situations, and what is your advice on how to make a quick, correct decision?
I like to if there's conflict between two or more people, let's find out who's on what side and speak to them. Speak to them individually, so they can say what they want to say. That way, I know you get a better understanding because a lot of the time you're just told after the fact. So, what happened on a couple of occasions when I've stepped in, someone's come to me and said, "Look, this is what's going on," and I go, "Right, I'll speak with you, and you. Speak to the two sides. Make a, I'd make a decision then, or if not, I'd come speak to you guys and go, look, this is what's going on. What should we?"
Yeah.
And I always believe that in an argument, you should hear both sides. Someone from the
Absolutely.
someone from because a lot of the time I'm outside of all of the arguments. I'm not on either the side. I can look at both sides and see what the problem is and how to resolve it. That's that's usually the best way. I've listened to both sides, make a comparison, see what's if there's an easier route that way. If there isn't, you guys and go right. This is what's going on. You know, and if you're always stuck, ask for help. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Good advice.
And next we will go with Finn. How do you deal with swift decisions and rapidly escalating situations?
Well, I kind of try and look back on conversations, see how it started first, and then make a decision based on that, on who I'm going to talk to first. And I just try and find out what exactly happened. And I try that I moderate is by de-escalating the conversation without to try and talk with words and typing. And that's what I had. We definitely have had a few situations where just talking to someone isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, there isn't much that you can do with stuff like that. But I think that talking to people is probably the most important part of being a moderator,
And
and just like, reassuring people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, apologies for the earlier drop in frames. My connection is currently being slightly unstable. I do greatly apologise.
We all.
Now we go to Minnie for her
It's me.
insight on how to deal with quick, lasting decisions.
I'm the person who gets roped in when people can't solve it. So it's normally a quick turn to Minnie. She'll come on. Well, I do because I'm good that way. And I just normally it's so I, normally if some two people are like fighting on Telegram or something, that and scroll up and see that the other moderator has calmed down through talks that Finn and Fenris has already said, and obviously that's not working. So I just go straight for the mute. So either tell them to take it to PMs or PM me about it, so I can tell the story and then help them resolve it. But normally, once they can calm down because it's just the two of them. They don't have any pressure. Who's gonna pipe in their word or and they've said it's just the two of them and they can resolve it themselves in a nice. So that tends to work well. But normally I'm halfway through my homework and it's due the next day. So that is normally the worst time to catch me, but you're all pretty good at that. So yeah, Oz, what is your advice?
On how to deal with long, swift decisions, and we'll go first with escalating situations. First, when a situation is escalating, you want to try and minimize the risk of things getting blown over, things escalating as quickly as possible. The easiest way to do it is to go for the mute button, and
See, not just me.
and that does mean for some platforms it's a lot harder to deal with that, and for some platforms you've got to just you can't you can't really deal with that. You can't kick them because it would mean a lasting situation that which can
Yeah,
cause
no
even
kidding.
more controversy. Um, and trying to get people to talk, because communication is key on how to deal with conflict. Um, Communication on where people stand, because a lot of conflict comes from misunderstanding of how people view a certain situation, and it can lead to, and due to people being either on the internet or just in general, it can lead to escalation. Um, and with the dealing with swift, lasting action, um, there's obviously the when dealing with online situations, there's the obvious. Oh, there's a troll. There's a situation where someone's clearly out there trying to make a nuisance. You can point them out straight away most of the time. But for the
Yeah,
others
true.
who aren't necessarily out there for it, it's a bit harder to deal with. So you got to pinpoint what what. Sometimes you have to allow them to push buttons, just enough buttons to get them, you know, out of the chat. And it can be hard to do that. I know that sounds very, very misleading stuff, but you will know as a staff member, one will always know. One will always have a feeling when something's not great, when something's going wrong. And in the in older times with it can be hard though when you are in a situation where you personally are not in a great situation to be able to take action. For example, you are outside and you are going into a situation where your signal may go in a bit, or you are just busy, um, or something sudden happens with your connection if you're going online, or in real life a a significant situation that overtakes this priority. um, that's harder to deal with. Sometimes it's the easiest way to deal with things is to press the pause button, know what's going on, and try and sort it out.
Yeah, I can agree with.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
what works well.
Yeah, it works as well as we can. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Now we are currently in. Could easily see anywhere between midway and a third way in to this podcast. So right now, I think we do need to talk about something that we don't necessarily
Positive.
know, because we go through the
Oh.
negative into positive again.
Okay.
Because that is actually how you let people down. But we'll gloss over that. And we'll gloss into the what are the negatives? This may sound, as a moderator and as an owner, there are still negatives to staffing. There's negatives to
Mm.
management. There's always the perceived pressure. Um, the pressure with people expecting you to behave, well, of course you will behave, but expecting you to act in a correct
Certain
manner.
way.
And some people have vented interest and want you to act in a certain way. So obviously there is a pressure for some people. People give you pressure for wanting you to, e.g., ban a certain person, act wrongly, sometimes having to go against what you really feel like you got to do, and it's hard, but not impossible to try and just be strict about it. Sometimes you have to ban friends. Sometimes you have to tell them to stop. Um, sometimes, it's
Yeah.
there is a difficulty of that, and my ear has died.
What
And
was
so
that?
has the entire podcast.
My ear has died.
What happened?
So has mine.
I
Uh,
have no idea what happened just there.
Apologies for those who are listening. My ear hasn't died completely, but all that.
I'm dead.
But in all
Just some
seriousness,
real loud noises.
yes. What for you guys? We will start with Minnie because she's so insistent in positivity. What
Yes.
is what are the negative situations? What are the negative situations behind management? Yes, but moderation more importantly. What you know? What are the pressures and negative situations that come out of it?
I say it's so unpredictable when you are going to be needed. It's not like, I think that's the worst thing for me. I'm someone who works so rigidly on a time schedule. Honestly, when these things pop up out of nowhere, I just it really affects me. I'm fine, but see. So I'd say that's the hardest bit about it. It's just you have to constantly be alert and aware at all times. Like, so my phone is constantly pinging with all your notifications. I don't need to read half of them because I don't care about, what you're getting up to on your Sunday morning. I need to have them there just in case something pops up so I can be there immediately. So yeah, it can be really annoying. I know my family gets really annoyed. They're all like, "Doesn't shut up," and I'm like, "No, neither do you." So yeah. What are the negatives? Yeah, it can be hard to be there sometimes, and it could be hard when it's someone who you like, a friend of yours who's got caught up in an argument, and you have to like not pick sides and be completely like brutally honest about stuff, and it can be really hard to be like, sorry, I can't support you right now.
Caught up. What about if they are instigating it?
And what does that mean?
You don't know what the word instigating means. If they are
No,
basically, if they are the issue, they are the
if
reason
they are
why.
the firelighter. Okay, if they are the person who lit the fire, well then I can't I can't put sympathy. I do talk to them. I've had situations in the past where all I PM them going, look, this was wrong, and I can't because it's wrong, but I just want you to realize that X, Y, Z, blah,
XYZ is something up.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, your connection died again.
Yes, not
Yo-
great.
yeah, Minnie's connection. Minnie's connection dying has coincided with my drop of frames. Thanks.
Oh my
Which has
god.
actually affected the whole podcast and the streaming. Apologies for that again. Next we are
I'm
heading.
sorry.
We are now. It's just got.
I-
I'm on OBS and it's gone red again when you talked.
No.
Next we are going to a person with better quality connection,
Oh my
Fenris.
gosh, it's not my fault.
Hey.
What negatives are there in moderation, and what anything notable from that?
The thing is with moderation, you can't choose sides in argument, even if they're your friend, your closest friends. Because if it's causing that much of an issue where you need to get involved, then if you decide to go to your friend's side, you're showing preference, really. Um, that's a difficult bit, especially if you're really close to that certain person. Okay, it'll make solving things a little easier, sure, but you can't give preferential treatment. You have to be equal. You have to be as strict with one as another. If if you can kind of get where I'm getting at. The other the other
Yeah.
the other thing is if you're too strict, then people aren't going to trust you to moderate. So it's a fine balance of doing it well and being fair with everyone, but not being so strict or mean or it's that way, so everyone can trust you. But the main downside is people not actually wanting to trust you as a moderator.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, as saying, yeah, as you stated, there is trying to balance the your integrity and how other people view your integrity, especially when you're having to deal with friends.
Exactly.
And your friendship. That conflict can happen, and I mean personally, sometimes when you actually have a team, you can afford the luxury of just passing it to another staff member if you feel that um
Yeah.
your connections will affect how you handle the situation. And
Exactly.
you have to be mature enough to know when you have to pass it out over. Um, Especially when your friend is being stubborn, or
Yeah.
a proverbial pain in the backside. Um, Next, we are going to go to FCS Property Limited. Finn, what is your negative situations that have come out of the negative side of moderation?
Well, to put it simple, moderation sucks your soul. Like it just. Sorry, I don't really have to say that, but well, I had a thing in mind to talk about. But actually, yeah. So I'm guessing that Oz and Minnie know about this, but especially when I join the community, I'm a little bit insecure. I care about what others think of, me, and as a moderator, you're having to get into heated situations, and I did not like that, so I've had to adapt to that.
Ah, yes.
And it has there have been some uncomfortable situations that I have not liked at all, and in some situations, I've been quite stressed because well, with moderating comes stress, depending on how much you're doing of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess this point does kind of lead to a positive, has it's allowed me to become a little bit more independent and not caring about what others think of me as much. And I think that is a good quality to have, to like, or to like purposely like be yourself rather than being people expect you to be.
Good point. Good valid point.
There is also like a self consciousness issue. You're always worrying about, am I doing the right thing? Am I
Yeah.
doing this fairly? I can see exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, there's definitely when you first start pressure about uh, fulfilling the role and the job, and just um, are you pleasing Oz? Is this what he wants? Are you really good enough?
Am I that
Although,
demanding?
no, you're not. Like I'm saying, this is like kind of how you feel. I mean, to be fair, you weren't the one who scared me when I first joined. It was the off member, but they were on hiatus, so I had a nice entry into moderation. But it does start off a bit. Well, you just want to please. You're like a little doggo. All you want to do is please. So
That's just your
that's what
personality.
that's also
That is
it's how
actually
I think people should feel.
what, that you want to please the owner. God, that sounds very. That sounds like a bad reflection of me. But personally, it's like. Let's be honest here.
Well,
But
it's true. It's true though, because you're the owner of the chats that we moderate. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing, and you're not going to come down on us and go, "Oh, you're not
Yeah.
doing this right." When...
Except who does that? It's literally me. And I'm so sorry to everyone I've come down on, saying you're not doing it right. Don't laugh. I've done it. I
you
did it
come
to
down
AJ
on a
so
lot
many
of
times. I
people,
feel really bad
clearly.
for him.
You
With a
clearly
voice,
go
someone
down on
wants
a
to
lot of.
shout
Come
out
down on a lot of
to-
people. God, that sounds wrong.
Someone wants
Or
a shout out.
SJ. Hello, SJ.
Hey!
Good man.
But yes, we also have a we also have to go straight towards the more positive outlook, because these negative, the negative the negatives that come out of moderation do make you more resilient and do help you in the long run, make yourself mentally stronger. It can actually help you through harsher situations.
What
And
does really
I mean,
you're
for
mentally
me,
strong, or you're not fit for the job.
exactly. But when you're thrust into the situation, when you're thrust into the job, you kind of have to learn.
There's that sentence again.
Well, it's the best.
When you're thrust into the situation. You love that word, don't you?
Well, you just I am an aerospace engineer, qualified.
Exactly.
So
Use
I
it
actually
whenever you
have to
can.
deal with thrust. Um,
Guys, you don't have to make this all weird.
Oz likes looking at the numbers when dealing with thrust.
I mean, I'd like to get the numbers correct, especially I'd like to get the starving numbers correct. As as the head of a staff, you are responsible as sort of like the super manager, um, and all of your moderators are your assistant managers. That's one way to put it. So yeah, there is an element of you guys having to make sure that I don't feel like the situation was not dealt with properly. And a good manager of managers, um, are
Yeah.
they know what to do to try and fix the situation. They know what to do to ensure that they can improve. Because
Do you have
remember,
an example of this?
well, having to tell you guys that you dealt with ABC wrong. You have to try and deal with it with try and make sure you can tweak a few things. Try and make sure you don't necessarily go straight into a decision.
Yes.
Mm.
The
Try
stuff I tell the people who we just hire. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Also, you have to ensure that sometimes there's some administrative work that might not have been done correctly, which leads to some deletion of content. Maybe you have to, you can be okay with it and move on, but at the same time just state, oh, if something serious has to develop and one can't necessarily deal with it, necessarily you just like try and ask for other staff members. And sometimes there are situations where, I mean, to be fair, 3 of the staff members that I actually appointed into the UK First thing, was appointed due to a situation, and I felt that I had to rely on 3 reliable, mature-ish
Oh my
people.
gosh.
Um,
You can't call us mature. We can call some of us mature.
I said mature-ish. I was referring to the whole
Okay.
team in
Okay.
general.
Okay.
Um,
It's still valid.
Felt attacked.
it's yes, it's still valid. Yes, I mean with the pressure of with the pressure of trying to get things right, there are times where you get it wrong, and don't be too disheartened by it. That is one certain thing. Don't be too disheartened when you make mistakes, because although there are some times where you might feel
Everyone
that
does.
everyone does, and sometimes you might feel that. Can you stop interrupting me? Everyone
Sorry.
everyone feels like you have to get it right every single time, but you don't, because it's a process of learning. If you're doing it raw from internet, from dealing with it, right now, when you're put into the situation, when you're thrust into the role, it does mean
Stop.
that you are you are pressured to learn. You are pressured to, and you will make mistakes. You will make situations. You will have situations where you've accidentally made it worse. But it's all about the learning process. And if you don't learn, then you won't become a better moderator in the future. Yeah, you can teach. You can be taught about, or you can talk about management situations. This, and this. But if you don't physically learn, if you don't physically thrust yourself into the situation, or if you don't physically get experience, then you're never gonna learn mentally and proactively how how you deal with people. Moderation is a thing where you deal with people. It's a people skill. Yeah, and I mean, personally, I've learned many people skills out of this, and it's caused parts of management to go into parts of the management courses that I've learned have led into how this is how moderating and moderation has dealt with. But as some of you have touched on earlier, how do you deal with the time taken? Because as you guys all know, and as I know certainly, moderation is not a full-time job. You have to take breaks because it can take a mental toll on you. For example, I was on holiday, and Minnie and
Yes.
another sod,
And AJ.
yes, both
Me and AJ.
told me to stop moderating on holiday
Yeah.
because I actually was on holiday and I needed to actually relax. It has
We told you
worked.
to go away. Said we didn't want you anymore.
No, you
You can
basically
go
said
away.
just
So
just
he
don't,
did.
just don't moderate, don't stress yourself out on holiday. But for you guys, how do you deal with the time constraints? How do you deal with slotting in moderation into your life? I.e., moderating in moderation.
Fenris will
We
start
will
with
start
you.
with the person that has quite a lot of time constraints. It's Fenris. Go on.
It's me. Yeah. I work full time, Monday to Friday. Typically 8 till 5, but quite often I've got starts or late finishes. So a lot of the time during that period, I'm not free. But generally in the evenings is when I am. I'm checking up on occasionally. I'm always doing bits at home that needs to be done. So it's typically when I have time, I'm on either talking with you guys or talking with the other furs and just moderating. And I have a fiance looming over me.
Just making sure you're doing the right.
she's literally cuddling me behind. She's got her head on top of mine.
Oh.
Anyway, there is always. I know everyone says they're busy, but I reckon some people do have maybe 10, 15 minutes a day that they've got a little bit of time and they could check up on everyone, do a little bit of moderation here. And that's why many members, because we're all pretty much active at different times of the day. So,
Yeah, it
yeah,
works out quite well.
it does work out quite well. Finn, what have you got to say about it?
Well, yeah, just like you, I have a day. For me, it's mainly like when I wake up in the morning. Like the first thing I usually do is I usually check my phone because like I'm addicted. um, but yeah,
Addict.
for
One
the
of
first
us.
few
One
months,
of
like
us.
I was almost always on it, like moderating and stuff. I know that this is like the third or fourth time I've said this, uh, but I've managed to step back, and just, I had to evaluate my life choices and just try and fit everything in. And I'm now moderating to a point where it isn't taking over my life. First of all, secondly, it isn't stressing me out, and it allows me to do things on the side.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm mainly on in the morning and occasionally for 5, 10, maybe even sometimes 30 minutes
Yeah.
throughout the day for a few times. Uh, but like I am starting to cut down on my evenings a bit more just as I'm getting my business set up. It's my prime time for getting that done. But it's just balance
Yeah, that. What about you, Oz?
How I deal with the time constraints.
Yes.
How I deal with the time constraints depends on what situation I have to, what my personal situation is. If I am having to work, sometimes I can just leave it on the phone to the side. I'll look through the chat sometimes. If I'm trying to unwind, shut it off. But it's not because of the way moderation works and how dynamic the times can be, um, and also as the leader of the servers that I mostly am staffing. Uh, sometimes you have to deal with. Sometimes you just have to leave things open, leave notifications open, and intervene only as and when necessary. It's hard to determine when people are going to drop a situation. Um, Sometimes when you've got peak, you've got how traveling works. There are peak and off-peak times. Like for example, peak times are more like the evenings, and how people have just gone from school, from work, from whatever they've done, and they've come home and they want to do some socializing before bed, and that's what these chats and servers can do. Now, notwithstanding the situation, but I do have experience moderation outside things that I own, and these things can vary from being hands off situations where you only have to intervene when something's really popped up, and there are even other staff members when you don't really have to do much, and it varies from that to hands on. People are roaring are at war constantly, but that's very rare. And it really depends on the content of people, the content of people, the content of your server, of your what you're managing, and the content, i.e., people. Um, you need to have a good amount of people skills to you know learn how to deal with this. But with time management, it's for me it is currently due to my situation with my with my personal life. It's a lot of ad hocness. It's a lot of touching here, bit of moderation there, Um, and if something serious pops up, you're either notified by notifications, or you have to you have to you have to try and find a place. As as the staff, as the head staff, sometimes you just have to find a place to moderate, whether it be you have to have a reliable connection. I'm especially for me, because I do travel quite a bit. Sometimes I stay above ground or whatever to continually have a mobile connection in order to have, you know, a sustained connection to deal with a situation. Um,
Yeah, no, it's good.
Mm.
yeah,
Sacrifices.
yeah. As a staff member, sometimes you have to make sacrifices, and you know, I'm more flexible to deal with sacrifices than others, but overall, it can
Mhm.
be, it does happen. You have to make sacrifices.
Yeah. My turn.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm moderator now that I actually so have a less flexible schedule than some. Because during school time, well, I have a lot of lessons. I do a lot of subjects. I have very little free time, and then I have a lot of work on as a full-time boyfriend. um, moderating is, I mean, you will realize that I'm not really on my phone very much. Like, it's not like I'm taking a break or anything. It's like I'm fully focused in all my stuff, so it's quite difficult to moderate then. But during the holidays, I always like try and cheer up the server a little bit, put on some games, get some calls going. I really try. Well, just to liven up the party. you know. So yeah, time management is not really too difficult for me. I don't really let it take over my life. It just kind of is, and I do what I gotta do. So yeah, that's my input.
So now we're going to move on to
Are there any
engagement.
questions?
Oh yeah. Uh,
Should we
are there any
pop those
questions
to?
um to
Don't think there's
put
any
to the floor?
questions in the into the
Mm.
chat.
Yes.
There's some interesting words being said. Vemrillo saying, well, Finn originally put as a comment, words can start wars. How we use language is a vital life skill. Vemrillo actually puts
Yes.
a good point saying, I like you and you're not the worst kind. Using those two phrases may have the same meaning, but not the same effect. I think that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Mm.
Your language is very, it's a powerful tool. Especially online, it can be quite powerful to how you portray yourself to others, and with language, it's not just the way you
It's normally
say it.
what starts argument.
Yeah. Um,
Mm.
Again, as stated, sarcasm and other things do not translate well online, especially when it's just words on a page, and
Yes.
then there's no
Yes.
face involved in that. But that can be another podcast
Mm.
altogether.
Yeah. With typing and words, there's no emotion involved,
Yeah,
and that's the really tricky thing, is because it just means that so many different people can interpret a message very differently. Like some people would see a message being positive, some would see it as neutral, some will think it's an attack.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
it's a way.
and
This is definitely what I tell people. Yeah.
yeah,
Watch out for your words, because
and not just
they
watch out
will
for your words.
be received differently
Not
by different people. People know.
I
Mm.
was about to say, not just watch out for your words, watch out the way you say it and when you say it. Also,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, with that, you have to remember that sometimes the best form of communication is to get people into a voice call, is to get people into some, a way of communication where you can address tone where you can address how you portray your words. What is sarcasm? What is not sarcasm? What do you mean truthfully? What do you mean as a joke? Because we can, when you're really close friends, um, it is a fairly British thing. You insult each other as a joke, and
Yes.
some people can misconstrue it as a conflict when it really just is two people making fun of each other.
Having banter.
And there is also a fine line between banter and bullying.
Yes.
Because if something goes too far and they say stop and it isn't, and they don't stop, then it is bullying. But if they stop, then yeah, it's fine because you guys know your limits. Also, just overall, there is one very notable time when I managed to, when I was thrust into the starting role, the head
Need
role.
to
That word,
stop
thrust.
using that word.
I am an
You need to
engineer.
stop
The word
using it.
thrust means putting yourself into a situation very abruptly.
But not to the rest of the world. See,
It-
words.
Do you really want? Do you want me?
Isn't thrust a gradual thing? Wouldn't being putting yourself into a situation suddenly, wouldn't that just be a crash?
No, thrust as a meaning is push suddenly or violently in a specified direction.
Okay, we'll keep this safe for work.
No, that is actually the verbatim word for meaning for thrust. So if people misconstrue it in that way, then yeah, then
Okay, all
people
good.
have their straying minds, and I blame you guys for it, not necessarily myself, because I'm using the word thrust as a normal thing, normal word, and
Sure.
yeah. But when I was again put into the situation, and you guys insisting I have to use the word put. No,
Yes.
no, 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 because I'm the one that's hosting the podcast. Huh.
Fine.
So I was thrust into the situation, and I had to sort a quite essentially large rift between two roaring two basically heavyweights as they
Two
call it,
roaring.
warring parties. Um, and I said that because this was an amino, and this was when I was put as the chat owner for the first time for some UK first. It was a large, collection of people, and I said to them, look, go on a voice. We will have a voice chat because voice chats were just pretty new to the to Amino back then. This was in 2017. Very late.
60.
No, 16 wasn't voice chats. It was 17.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Sorry. Yes. My.
2017, very
You
late
are correct.
late 2017. I was put head as UK first in December, or late November. Either way, there were two people who were in disagreement and had caused the movement of the chat towards the movement of the head of the chat towards me.
Bless you.
Bless you. And because of that, I told them talk it out. You have to talk it out. If you don't talk it out, then it's not going to work, and you guys are going to keep on having a large amount of tension. They talked it out, and although things didn't, obviously clear out, but they had a better understanding of how each other were, and what was going on, and they apologized to each other for whatever had happened, and considering this is a long time ago, I'm not necessarily going to remember the details, or I'm not going to tell the details either. But communication, as stated, is key, and if you can't communicate right, then conflicts develop. And
Yes.
communicating right online is hard. It's hard because of the way it's faceless, the way it's toneless, the way it doesn't have any full-on, you know, easy way to decipher things. And let's be honest, there are some some people online, it's harder for them to point out emotions, to pick out what word meanings are and stuff, and it can lead to miscommunication is one of the top reasons why conflict exists. It's why relationships break down. It's why families split up. It's why friendship groups fall apart. It's the lack of communication. And sometimes it can happen
Oh yeah,
gradually,
definitely.
and that's just how friend groups fade. But other times it can be, it can happen gradually, but you guys are still friends, and then it leads to a large conflict.
Mm. Very wise words there.
Especially from very
Mm.
wise.
Yes.
I mean, Minnie, as you are co-host, anything you want to question?
I would like to question. Alright, well, I think we should talk not only about the moderation, so also about the extras that you have to do with it.
The engagement.
So, because you can't just running a server is not just going. You have to behave, and you have to behave, and you have to behave. It's all bringing people together, which takes time. It takes time out of your life. I mean, we're doing one right now. We're literally podcasting to bring you lot together. And we do regular and games and all kind of things like that.
Mm.
We ran an event. I ran an event. Didn't go on for very long. Couple where we got you guys to get creative. So anything else the rest of you want to add to things we've done? Things that you found particularly striking about something, or something you'd like to suggest for the Fenris
Engagement. Yes.
engagement? We've
Yes.
moved on to that.
Yes, as I sort of already, I did touch upon having to deal with engagement of the server, but to you know, engagement can range from small things like voice calls, like taking your time out, to provide small events, games. Like for example, Cards Against Humanity. This was hosted on
Mm.
Mhm.
Twitch earlier this week. There is no video record of it. Um,
Good.
Mainly
That is
because
a good thing.
half the stream didn't work for like the first 15 minutes. Um, but
And nothing was safe for work there.
yes. But also but that's the nature of Cards Against
Because
Humanity.
that's just a
But also you have Scriblio. That's something we
yes.
also do.
So that's fun.
Obviously, as I stated, voice calls. You have competitions now. Sometimes it depends on the kind of engagement that you have with your audience or server members, and sometimes people are willing to do it, sometimes the people aren't, and it's all about how you can manage it. You'd have to,
Trial and error.
yeah, there is a lot of trial and error, but sometimes you just have to
There was.
dabble. You have to dabble with something in order to check whether it works or not. And
Mm.
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people want to make, play games on their own, sometimes they don't. Sometimes, you could probably like create a server, Minecraft server maybe. Um, I don't know how we would do that, but sure. Some people might want that. It all depends on as a moderator, as an owner, as an owner, you have to try and gauge
Satisfied.
your audience, try and gauge what they want, and sometimes it's hard for that when you personally don't necessarily have the same vented interests as other people in your circle. Uh, which is actually kind of true for the UK first lot, because I don't necessarily have the same gaming interests. I don't necessarily have the same side interests compared to most of the people in the compared to most people, compared to nearly everyone in the server. But
Yeah.
but I do moderate on, you know, transport servers. I do have to deal with conflicts there. They are usually better behaved. No offense, but they are.
Aww.
So I don't necessarily have to deal with conflicts as much, but they do exist. And personally, it's, you know, it works out fine. I don't remember the count of how many servers I am staffing, but it is plenty. Uh, at least one's a gaming server. One is at least quite a few are transport servers, and I own 4 servers. I own 4 servers, 2 transport, and 2 furry. Um,
No, more than that. Oh no.
though I said own, not staff, because I staff
Okay.
more. I will come back to you.
You know, only last week, only like earlier this week, I found out I'm moderator in one of the Telegram servers, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, sometimes
I
online.
didn't realize.
Yeah, sometimes you just suddenly become staff, and you know sometimes yeah, it can happen, but sometimes it's just
It
for
was an interesting
permissions.
surprise.
Sometimes it's for permissions. Sometimes it's just to not to allow an extra amount of um you know, situational, you know, authority. But sometimes you have to starve it like actual staff. So yeah, it can happen. Uh, and for I think we're going to go with Finn. How do you deal with your engagement with others in a server, and how do you engage? How do you get server engagement, basically?
Well, sometimes I do try and start conversations, like when it is dead, but unfortunately only sometimes, as well, I'm not. But I remember at one point I did try and start a competition for a title on the Discord server. That didn't quite go to plan, but
Which
that's all.
one?
Yeah. It was the crafting one.
Oh yeah, and I was
That
like the only
one.
person who entered.
Yeah, you were the only one that
Do I
entered.
get the title then?
I can't remember what the title was supposed to be.
You
Like
can scroll up or find
master or
it.
something. But yeah, so there's stuff like that. Sometimes, well, I used to be very active in the voice calls. Unfortunately, not as much. But then again, not a lot is happening now with that, and I think that is something that's I need to work on. I'm not sure about what your goals are, but I would like to engage in voice calls, and I think that is a good objective for me to have.
Yeah, it's a good one. Do you have any objectives, Fenris?
Not really.
I'm not asking you to have any. It was just an open question.
No. Oh,
You do good stuff already.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
always,
keep
I
going.
always try and, I always try and take part.
Yeah.
If we're doing an event, if we're doing Cards Against Humanity, if we're doing Scriblio, I always try and get involved in it, encourage people to join in, have a bit of voice chats. I used to get in all the time, but now I've kind of dropped back a bit. Quite getting quite busy with actual life, but yeah, I always try and get involved where I can, and
Yeah.
talking with everyone. I mean, I know quite a lot of the people on the server, and then there's always new people coming in. I mean, I'm looking through the server, and there is a few people on here I have never talked to before. So
Oh well.
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing that we're expanding. I mean, saying offline 99, online 27. No, we're nearly 130 people. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
it's pretty good.
What's also interesting is on the administration side, you just see every single staff member online.
Yeah,
That,
we're all
that's
online.
so rare, but
And
it's
then you can see me,
yeah.
see what I'm doing.
Also, just to point this out, one Finbar, put yourself online on Discord.
There you go. Is that better?
True. There you go. Now you see all six of the staff are online. Um,
Yeah.
just to point this out,
Nice.
as I stated earlier, I own 4 servers. I am staffing 5 other servers that range from gaming, political podcasts. That's how I started in podcasting. I was a regular guest in political podcasts, in a political podcast, and there are other furry and transport servers. I own one Telegram chat, which everyone on this chat and all the all the UK First staff are also staff in.
Aware of.
Two
Not all
amino
of us are in it.
two amino chats, although they are for the same thing. Um, and I obviously own the WLTM transport blog. Again, this is our secondary sponsor today is, as stated, the
Oh, we
WLTM
have
transport
another
blog.
sponsor.
Yes, our secondary sponsor is the WLTM transport blog, the same sponsor as last week, covering the latest in London's transport. Visit the website at www.wltmtb.co.uk. And again, then the main sponsor today is FCS Property Limited at www.fcspropertyltd.co.uk.
Help
Um,
with property solutions, but your property problems. And
yeah,
if you're wanting to invest in property, I'm the one to talk to, and I can give you advice.
yes,
Yeah,
FCS
go see
Property.
him.
FCS Property, the man behind FCS Property, is on the podcast.
Yeah, we have actual business guests because we are cool.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, what are these sponsors giving to the stream?
Well, last week it was $10. $10 from my left hand to my right hand for myself. This week it is
$10 from your left hand to your right hand.
no, it is actually £50 from my right hand to my left hand.
Oh wow. We
Yep.
love the
Yeah.
passing of money.
I was basically stating the 2 notes I have at the moment.
Good to know you're rich.
And for FCS property, it is investing my time to be on this beautiful podcast.
Yes,
Yes.
we
That's
appreciate it.
making us not a guarantee, but a personal promise that I'm going to make it to the mini meet in August, the meet and explore.
Yes. Yes, should we
So,
talk a bit
not
about that?
Oh
yet,
yeah, it
but
is actually
just
part of
like
the.
I can excuses to go.
It is part of
So
the.
since it
It's part of the
says
engagement.
mini on
Actually,
there,
I'm the yeah. I'm the
I
I'm the one that actually started all of this. For the meeting and exploring. When I was the oh yeah, meet and explore is a thing that I formally host. It's a social meet between people in the chat, and so it's like a easy sort of way to provide a central focus point to, physically meet people from the chat, from the server. The first one
yeah.
was way back in January 2018 with Liverpool. I travelled up by train to see the bunch of people who lived in Liverpool who were in the chat, and that was a fun time. It was a way to, add an extra dimension, add an extra piece of engagement to change to change text on a screen to people and faces and words and spoken voice.
Definitely brings people together more
Literally.
as a community because, like, you really get to know the person behind the Sona, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how I
Like,
met the first furry who is on this podcast.
Yeah, sometimes you're not a furry, and sometimes, I'll say, for that, people have events. Furries have events. There are fur meets that exist for transport sods who are also listening. There are, places where you can visit. There are events that go on. For example, there's Alton Rally this weekend. Not sponsored. There's London Furs and Brum Furs this weekend. Not sponsored. Um, they have their London Furs have their summer party on Saturday, sorry, on the weekend. Ask them for more details. Not sponsored. Brum Furs have their meet again, as I stated, not sponsored. But there are meets across the country.
There's one in Southampton as well.
Yes, there is one in Southampton, not sponsored. Nottingham, not sponsored. Coventry, not sponsored.
There's a Milton Keynes one starting up again.
Milton Keynes, not sponsored.
Ooh,
Derby,
fancy.
not sponsored.
Chelfers.
Cheltenham, sponsored.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
It's
we
very
actually
That
do
one
have
will be
some
starting
sponsors.
up again in September. I wanted
Yeah.
to say, I think we're going to say September at some point.
And for those who,
Yeah.
yeah, and for those who are listening who aren't from the UK, there are meets where you are. For transport, as I said, there's also there is the Alton Rally that's coming up on Saturday. Again, not sponsored. I will be there, hopefully. But
Ooh.
there's also bus garage open days. For example, Metroline's Potter's Bar garage open day on next week. This weekend on Saturday, not sponsored. Um, and it's there are. If you're in fandom, there's also you've got conventions. Another thing, for example, Confuzzled is the furry one in the UK. Is the main furry one in the UK, not sponsored. There's also anime conventions and MCM Comic Cons, not sponsored. And yeah, it's
Love the fact you drive in the not that every event or we say.
what I have to add the words "not sponsored" every time.
Yeah.
Except for Chelfers, because that's sponsored.
That is sponsored because the main organizer is in the call, and also Meet and Explore
Yeah.
is technically sponsored already.
And eventually I'm going to be starting some property networking things which can be sponsored as well.
Oh yeah, those are definitely sponsored.
Yes.
Without talking about sponsors. But in all certainties, though, Meet and Explore had expanded slightly to become a thing where we meet people. Part of Meet and Explore ended up being Chelfers.
Yeah, that was the
That-
main program.
Yeah, that's
Now
how
we're
we
bringing it
branched
to
out.
London.
Yeah, well, not really. It's more Meet and Explore just exploding again.
Yeah, no, it'll be good fun. So
Yeah.
you'll be there, I'll be there. Finn said he may be. Fenris.
Maybe.
Fenris is a
17.
maybe.
No, probably not.
Fenris is a no, but it's fine. He'll be in our hearts. Oh yeah, there are a bunch of other people coming, definitely. And so yeah, it'll be a good time if people can come join us. If you're around here, please come meet us. I'm sorry if you don't want to meet me because you're scared of me. Then
Then meet me instead,
good.
and I'm less scary. I'm
Yeah.
joking. I'm way more scary.
Well, he's less scary
that-
now. He hasn't got crutches anymore.
No, I'm more scary now. I
True,
don't have
true.
crutches. No, I have four.
No,
I
no.
have 4 crutches behind me, and I also have a
He
tripod now.
He
so
has no offensive weapon.
no, my offensive
It's
weapon is
okay.
tripod now.
He'll-
I
He'll
actually
do
have a,
those.
a camera tripod now, so
Yeah.
it does
You're
mean
so fancy.
it's actually worse than crutches because they actually have 3 legs, and you can
I'll just
detach
run.
parts.
I have short legs and I run fast.
The tripod is taller than you, or about the same height as you.
Wait, what?
The tripod is about the same height as you.
Oh my gosh. I need shelter. Finn, you better protect me.
I'm not gonna.
I shall protect the little bean.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I need some serious protection.
Yeah, which is
An
why
inanimate
you're going to
object
be
is taller than
using
me.
which is why you're going to be using rubber. Anyway, Max.
What?
Rubber.
Oh my gosh, I just got it.
You're slow. An advertisement for
Sorry,
Minnie's
Apple.
boyfriend.
You're slow.
Talk. Oh my gosh.
Moving on.
ignoring that. I mean, we are now getting closer towards the end of the podcast. So, I mean, what are you guys? This is now a thing. Open, I was about to say open to the floor. It's not really open to the floor first. It's more open to. We'll go with Minnie. What?
What have I?
Yeah, we'll go with Minnie first. What would be your advice to people who are either thrust into a situation where they are moderating, or they are applying for moderator, or they are applying for curator? Very mean. Not sponsored. Please sponsor us.
Well, my advice is just have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously, because it's not like an actual job. You're not getting paid for this. And I mean, I literally just ended up being a moderator through complete. I mean, I didn't expect to get it; it just kind of happened. So, yeah, just be responsible. But like, be responsible, but also just like, don't take it too seriously. Just don't feel like it needs to take over your life. You know,
That is
Because I made
like-
that mistake my first
like,
two.
be respectful and be like all these. Yeah, be respectful. Be like a good figure to look up to, but don't like overly pressure yourself with it. That's kind of my advice. Just take a chill, and don't. And also with the job, don't feel like with the job, with with the position, don't feel like you are unable to take a break, because you can. You can take a break whenever you want to if you need time to just clear your head. I mean, Oz knows he feels very much attached to his little babies, but sometimes you have to tell him that it's okay to leave them.
Yeah,
They'll be all right.
it does help when you actually have a team around you.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially. Next we will go with Finn.
Yes.
Any advice that you can impart on others about moderation?
Don't know. I had a point and I lost it, and then I had a different point and I lost that one as well. But
Well done.
I'm gonna see if it comes back to me with me just rambling on saying it's gonna come back to me, and it is not working at all. So
Congratulations.
yeah, come back to me.
I mean, the advice there is remember what you're going to say.
Yes.
Especially when you're the sponsor. Well, the main one.
Oh yes, I now have advice. If you ever have any problems, go to the
Shameless plug.
That's my advice.
Shameless. It's not even shameless. It's just even worse. It's just brutal plug.
Oh gosh.
Um.
What about you, Fenris?
Yeah. What's your advice to prospective moderators?
My advice is don't go overboard with it. Enjoy it. Do what you can. If you can't, ask other moderators for help. If you're the only moderator, ask the owner. If you are the owner, ask responsible people. You'll always need responsible people. Otherwise, you've got a pack of cats in an active chat and you've really not got no idea what's going on. So, my fiance shouting at me, "Hey, nothing wrong with cats."
Just cats, or is it something else? Dogs?
Dogs or goldfish?
Females?
I mean,
Dogs?
Whoa.
Males.
Any animal species.
Everything.
But everything. There's everything in a chat just blended in together. No, but seriously, if you want to, don't be scared about being a moderator. Don't worry about it too much. If
We're
you want to
not
be a moderator,
scary
if you want to become a moderator, and if you're responsible enough, that's fine. You shouldn't have to be scared about being a moderator and thinking about, oh, I've got to boss people around, or I don't want people to hate me. That's not what it is. It's not what it is anymore.
Not
Yeah,
it is
no, we're a bit
anymore.
more
What do you
relaxed.
mean?
We're not mean.
We don't
We're
need to be
we're
mean.
all we're all friendly people.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
We get along really well as a staff team as well, which I think
Yeah.
is really important.
yeah, staff teams need to work well with each other in order to be a cohesive team. Finn, has it come back yet?
No, not exactly.
We
As I
will,
was-
we will come back.
I'm going to be completely honest here. I was in my own world, and I was not
Oh,
thinking.
this
at
tends to
all.
happen.
Oh yes, Finn has
Yeah.
a tendency to completely forget that he's in a podcast.
Yes.
Well,
it's not.
do you
not
want me?
forgetting I'm in a podcast. It's forgetting that I'm in a conversation.
You forget you're in a lots of things.
Yes.
That's
Like, I
your
would
that's
be
your
sat down at
weakness.
a table with loads of people, and then for a whole 5 to 10 minutes, I'll just completely be blank and forget that I am there.
Well, this is my advice to you. Remember, you are in a podcast. Please engage.
But yeah,
Just put a
advice
post-it note.
for moderators. Always get two sides of the story and never take a side. When you have two sides of a story, you should assess both sides and then move forward from there. You shouldn't just go take someone's side because they're your friend or because it's more believable. Like, if you've got evidence, then you should always proceed with that evidence, but you should never take a side.
Yeah, that's definite.
That is good.
And now we're gonna go
Quality
to me.
advice. Are there any questions from the
Minnie?
listeners?
You forget.
Yes.
I also have to
From
say
the
my
three
advice.
viewers with you and Fenris thing too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say your advice.
Yes, because Minnie completely forgets what part of the podcast
I'm doing
we
a
in.
Finn, and I'm.
You are
getting
doing. You
zoning
are
out.
doing a Finn.
Minnie's doing me.
Yes.
Thanks.
But yes. Finally, for my piece of advice, there are different aspects of moderation. You have the ownership role. The ownership role is a way that you can. It is high risk, high reward. You are the figurehead. You are the person who heads everything. You are the person who sometimes is blamed when things go wrong. Because
Yes.
you are the figurehead. You are the person who has appointed the staff. You are the person who has you are the central. It's like a central hub. But it is also rewarding because you also have the engagement you see in others. You see how people engage between each other, between the staff, between your staff, between how you and your staff develop relationships, sometimes romantic, but
Ah, yes, you and your stuff.
that he got promoted before. Um,
It's beside the point.
but beside the point, as these are my advices as an owner. Make it your own. If you're the owner, make it your own. Make it. You don't necessarily have to be overlording, but make it your own. You have to manage the server in a way that you feel comfortable with it. Sometimes my advice when your group gets larger than, I don't know, 30, 20 to 20, you could probably get away with doing it on your own, but by 30, my advice is if your group reaches 30, get at least one staff member. someone that you can trust. It doesn't have to be a friend necessarily, but it can be. Um, sometimes sometimes it is a little bit of nepotism towards the earlier reaches and echelons of your server growth. When you get bigger, um, my advice is either try and promote people who are mature and who have seen, who you've seen to be good at diffusing situations, good at helping people, good at, being the mature voice in a sea of less mature
Just
situations.
being responsible.
Yeah, being responsible and being
Mm.
mature. That's the main thing, but also being able to engage with others. Um,
I
and
wouldn't necessarily call myself mature, but
yeah, you got
if you
promoted
say
more in the
so.
second bit. Um, being able to engage with others
Yeah.
because we had maturity already on leads and bounds on the other staff member at the time. At the time. Um,
Yeah.
and remember, sometimes you will make staffing mistakes, but don't make that dishearten you. You will make staffing mistakes. Sometimes you might promote someone that isn't necessarily right. But if you're the owner, you can change it. If you promote them to owner, then that's not your business. Don't. Yeah, let's be honest. If you promote someone to an ownership role and you step down and they turn out to be not great, then you know
Not your
it's
fault.
not your fault. You
It's
felt you
too
made the
late then.
yeah you felt you made the right decision at the time. Don't put it against yourself. And yeah, it's certainly
Also,
that.
same with moderators.
Yeah, but same
If you
moderator.
promote someone, realize they're not fit for the job, it's okay to demote them. That's a word.
Depromote, really?
Unpromoted.
Unpromote.
I'm
Just press
really
the undo
tired.
button. No.
Control
Relegate
Z.
someone is a better
Roll.
is the harsher word, but relegating someone to a normality? Yes, to a normal role. Um as
I think we need to conclude this
I'm still
podcast
not finished,
pretty soon.
diff,
I
you
know you're not
daft.
finished. I'm just giving you a
I
little
know
heads
how to
up
work a
on the time.
podcast, you.
I will fall asleep in
Good.
podcast if we do.
Good. I want you to fall asleep in call because now it's not
No,
me
but
instead. And yeah. Anyway, but yeah, as an ownership role, own it. Own it. Make it your own. If you can make it your own, do it. Um, secondly, uh, don't let the pressure get to you. This is for both moderation and ownership. Don't let the pressure get to you. Find ways to unwind. Find ways to relax. Sometimes you use your other staff to deal with something in order to ensure that you can relax. And if you don't be afraid to have a hiatus. Don't be afraid to say, I can't deal with this right now. I can't deal with, staffing right now. Please, can you have someone to, temporarily deal with this while I'm away or admit when you can't deal with a situation. You have to be mature enough to do that and if you're mature enough to do that, then you can staff effectively because you know when you are actually on point and dealing with situations, you will be on point. And lastly, engage with your people. Ensure that
yeah,
they feel that they don't feel that they're just vehicles, in a system. Feel that they are valued people. Feel that make sure they feel wanted. Make sure they feel like it's a family, it's a community, it's someone, link people together because you never know what can happen in the server. People can get into romantic relationships. People can great great bonds, great friendships.
or just friendships.
I
We
said
don't
I
have to
said
go
I
all
said great friendships. You do
lovey-dovey.
realize this.
Okay,
This is why you don't
fine. I'll
interrupt.
just go to bed.
Good.
Mm.
And just remember, I this is mainly, and remember, text does not portray emotion well.
Mm.
Communicate. That's a big one. Communicate. Because if you don't communicate, you're screwed. And on
That's
that
a very
note,
polite way of saying it.
we thank our guests and our sponsors. We
Yes,
thank our
we do.
we thank Fenris. Fenris, we thank you.
Ah,
Thank you
I
for
heard
coming.
nothing for 5 seconds there. No, thank you for having me on.
We also thank Finn.
Yee, thank you.
We thank Finn and we thank the sponsorship of FCS Property Limited. Visit them
Yes,
at
thank you.
www.fcspropertyltd.co.uk.
I offer 10 minutes free calls for consultation, just to let everyone know.
Please bombard
Oh.
him with calls immediately.
My number isn't on the website yet.
Please
Oh,
bombard
so-
him with calls on Discord.
Oh no.
Oh, yes.
Oh yes.
Oh no.
And we thank my other host.
Me. You can't say my name.
Yeah, 'cause you're too small.
And I thank Oz. Thank you for.
Yes, and we
running
also
this.
thank the secondary sponsor, the WLTM Transport Blog. Visit them at the visit them at the website www.wltmtb.co.uk. And we thank you guys for listening. I have been Oz, and we shall see you next week at 9 p.m. or thereabouts.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Thank you, and
Good
good
night.
night.
Bye.
Good night.